Anything else? The wine bottle. No, we've already asked about that. The wine bottle. I got next to nothing about that. Okay, leave her be. I nodded my thanks for answers, then turned back to the room. I don't think there's anything new, is there? Ooh, a hat. Man's hat hanging on the rack in the front of the door. Okay, I'm asking you about that now. I probably should have continued asking. Found anything about my husband's killer? Hat. You have a hat. Why do you have a hat? Man's hat hanging on the rack. I brought up the hat. Who does that belong to? What do you mean? I think it's my husband's. Green was wearing his hat in the police photo. Winnie fenced. Fanny winced at my reference to the photograph of her husband. He may have had more than one, she said. Okay, leave her be. I think that's the only real thing that we've got around here, isn't it? And the wilted plant. Don't see the reason to really do anything there, so let's head off to the Tin Spoon Lounge. Look for clues to the murder. If nothing else, I can go and bother Tiny Paul. Talk to the driver, of course. Somewhere in his 50s, but drove like he'd soon be dead, bounding through the streets and honking at anyone in his way. And with the driving like that, he soon will be dead. Making good time, I commented. Bah! He exhaled like an old ship captain. Congestion! All these motorists, not one of them knows how to drive. Lunatics! The last word he shouted through the window. You see the Life magazine? He continued. 13% increase in auto deaths this year to last. 14 the year before. Most of them pedestrians. We crested another hill and my head bounced off the car's ceiling. Most folks run out of moonshine at home, then take the car to the speaky. Can't even walk and then think they can handle the road. Well, not me, sister. This car leaps when I put my foot down, but you just gotta know what you're doing. We screeched to a halt at my destination. I stumbled out of the taxi cab as quickly as possible, thankful to still have all my limbs. I arrived at the old warehouse turned speaky, its wooden sign still barely holding onto the doorframe of the building. I rapped my knuckles on the same metal door instead of the usual dark eyes. The door swung open to reveal Fred Grant. He let out a "PC, good seeing you," with more whiskey in his breath than a fire breather. He stumbled down the next few steps and I caught his limp body. All loose ends tied up, he said, winking at me while he tried to stand tall. Through the doorman in the back of the wagon, he continued. He says nobody came in or out from the upstairs billiards hall last night. Hiccup interrupted Grant's thoughts. You know, I believe him. But the Bulls need someone to work on, and putting welts on this goon will make the afternoon go faster. He again tried to stand upright. Failing at that, he stumbled to his police car, got behind the wheel, let the sirens loose, and drove the machines around the car. I continued up the stairs to find a similar scene as the day before. Only Tiny Paul had been replaced by a young woman, idly playing with a deck of cards, scanning around the billiards table, The balls were gone from the billiards table, and in their place were some betting chips and cards strewn across the felt. I counted 5 aces. 2 aces of hearts. I could see the tears welled in the girl's eyes. Okay. I approached the young woman and looked her up and down. I studied her face. She was in her early 20s and was naturally pretty, with deep eyes, shimmering black hair, and big rouged lips. Though holding back tears somewhat twisted her face. I cleared my throat. And she turned around. "Oh," she said. "I didn't hear anybody after that officer left." Why were you crying?" I asked. Her lower lip wavered a little, but she managed to stop it before any tears could get through. "It's that copper who was just here. First he asked about Green." Then what did he ask about?" What do you think? He kept wanting me to feed him drinks, and the more I put in him, the more fresh he got with me." She heaved a sigh. "It's not your fault," I said. "Of course it isn't," she exclaimed. "All men are brutes, but I can't exactly slip away from a copper. Anyhow, I'm just frantic because of the booze. I'm sure it'll wear off." She turned her gaze back to the cards on the table. She was putting up a strong mask, but I could tell something about Grant's interaction had rattled her. The truth is, most women wear a mask in public. Almost every one of us has a story about being mistreated. Or worse. Me too. "I'm sorry," she entered my thoughts. I'm Ella Smith. I work nights as a backing singer here. I realised she was related to the Green case, at least partially. I had to pump her for information. Let's ask about Mrs. Green being a singer. I asked if Green's wife sang here under the pseudonym Lil Fanny. Ella Smith nodded in affirmation. Well, that wasn't helpful. Got people watching Green. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that. I nodded, asked if that's something else. Okay. What about Mrs. Green following her husband? Showed her something in my notes, we've got nothing meaningful from the conversation. Okay, so you're pretty useless. Green died, was found close to the tin spoon. Green was killed around midnight, I told her. Do you remember anything from then? She turned red in an instant. Midnight was the time I sang all by myself to the crowd up here. How do you know it was midnight? I asked. Well, last New Year's Eve, at exactly midnight, me and little Fanny, you know, our lead, did a swell duet for the boys. They wanted to hear it again, but she wasn't around to sing it, so I did it alone. Little Fanny wasn't around, I asked. But the doorman says nobody from the billiards room left the joint. Maybe... Ella shrugged. Maybe she was in the toilets? I didn't go looking for her. Look, I never get to sing lead. They don't like us Chinese girls doing that, so I took my chance. How could I turn it down, she asked. Well, anyhow, after that song is when I really downed some gin. I didn't much like it, but they said it was good for me, and I was riding high with everyone watching. I don't remember much after that. I thanked her for the tip. So you claim you were in here at midnight? I asked. That's right, she said. It's given me the option to contradict, but... I mean, I don't think I've got a reason to contradict her. Right, nobody threw the... Yeah, so I don't think she left or entered. I don't have any reason to actually contradict her, so I won't. I nodded and asked her about something else. I mean, it might be that I have to contradict her on that. That's something I need to ask Fanny about. Killed with the 45. Anything about that? Do you know anybody who had a gun that could kill Green? I asked. She looked at me, puzzled. I explained myself. Miss, I'm just a private detective looking into the matter. I need to follow up with everyone. She looked surprised when I said private detective, but she didn't comment on it further. She chuckled at my question. I don't know if you know this, but, well, this place is a type of gangster hideout. No one in the band has shooters, of course, but just about everybody else in the building is carrying something. There was no help in narrowing my list of suspects, but I nodded my understanding. You don't carry a gun yourself? I asked. She shook her head. No, ma'am. No shooters in the band. She seemed adamant on that point. Can't really contradict that. Let her be. I turned back to the room. Although a number of contradiction options is making me think that maybe I should be contradicting her. I thought about heading back down the dark stairs to the street. So, let's go back to Green's house. Yes, let's go back to Mrs. Green. And we'll ask about the fact she wasn't there at midnight. I thought about talking with him on the way. Let's talk. He was young, not a teenager, but not far off. The redness in his face and a mean scowl told me he was angry. Though much like driving taxi cabs, I offered. He looked quizzically at me over his shoulder, before understanding what I meant. No, lady, I like it right enough. Just some bozo for you were in here was giving me hell because I looked like the boy his daughter's going with. Went off about how my generation was ruining America. That guy doesn't know anything. But it sounds like you do. I'm no genius, he replied, but you talk to anyone from the last century, they'll tear off your ear for just being young. How'd they get so high, I wonder? Given the world in the 1890s like a smooth-running roadster, then what they do? Bash it on every curb in the sight. Their greed, their war, their politics, now they're giving us a ruined clunker, and they're mad at our manners when we grab the keys. I mean, admittedly, I don't really know the context of the economic situation of the 1890s, and if you assume this must be like, oh, is this early 30s? I don't know. Yeah, they've given us a hint with Lenin, but you then must assume then that this must be, well, this is 20. This might be 20s actually. 20s probably makes more sense. I don't know. Maybe 30s actually. Because then this whole economic thing, I will agree. I agree with him. The Great War was the hardest fought, at home and abroad, I said. The old man who put us there had some nerve. And after those years, they tell us to get in line. It's a terrible deal to me, sister. We're in the information age. No, we're in the 1920s. And the news of the world is terrible. They're just angry we can see their folly. Anyhow, thanks for letting me blow off steam. Have a nice day, miss. And more I'm getting the feeling that this was originally a modern story, and then they realised it was kind of noir, and they've moved it to the 20s and 30s to some extent. Mrs. Green was seated in her chair, considerably more awake. Previous. I asked about... you weren't in the pool hall at midnight. One of your backing singers claimed you left the upstairs room before midnight. That's not true. I was there the entire evening. You seem quite sure, Mrs. Green. She sang to the drunken boys without you there. But I asked our doorman, Miss Malone. He says nobody left the upstairs room. You're doing your own digging? I asked. She blushed. I just have no confidence in the police. Anyhow, if nobody came from upstairs, that leaves anyone in the pool room. I must have been in the restroom if Ella is certain I wasn't with them at that exact time, because I could not have been outside. I want to contradict with the thing I've just given her. And so, one of your backing singers claims you left. Yes, you mentioned that, but the doorman says nobody left the room. Why would she be lying? Why would she be lying to you, Malone? Yeah, no one left the room. Right, here's the okay, well... She had a point, I moved on to further questions. Leave her be. Here's the... Okay, people have guns, but we know... Okay, from that, we can speculate then that she's not the one at... Not the one who did it, then. Because no one left. My nose is itchy. My nose is sneezy. Go here. Go back to the barber shop and see if we can find anything. Let's talk to the driver. As I glanced towards the driver, I spotted a strange device attached to its windshield. A rectangular mirror, about 3 inches tall and 7 inches wide, held by a metal bracket. Ooh, this is a rear view mirror. That's about the mirror. He looked at me. See how I can see you? I can also see that guy behind me. I turned in my seat and saw a police wagon a block behind us. It's called a cop spotter, he continued as I turned back to the mirror. Sold by this fellow Berger. Works pretty well for knowing when to bend the law. Might be a good tool for bootleggers, I offered as we arrived. Yes, it might be. I smiled back and left the taxicab. Right. Small bell above... Ooh, hello. Ooh, a coat. The hat rack was a deep mahogany engraved with... No, the coat. There was a man seated in the barber chair, tapping his foot and staring at me. I didn't see Stable anywhere. Let's have a chat with this fellow, then. He stared at me with a grin that extended to his eyes. He was wearing a barber's cape, but told me he was here for a haircut. I wondered why Stable had left this man mid-trim. I asked him how he was doing. Swell, he answered. Yes, very swell indeed. Thank you, miss. His words came out as jovial as his expression, and they held a slight and affable southern tint. A few more pleasantries returned, equally verbose responses with no meat to them. They piqued my interest. I'm fairly sure that's not how you spell pique in this instance. I think pique in this interest is P-I-Q-U-E. With a D on the end, obviously, because it's piqued. A stranger in Stable's barber chair with no sign of Stable around. Who are you? I asked with genuine curiosity. I am merely a mortal man enjoying my life at this very moment, he replied, looking me up and down, and there is much to envy. I laughed in response. The old guy was getting fresh with me. He smiled, widened at my laugh, glad that some flappers know how to take a compliment. Most modern girls get their stockings knotted whenever someone calls them pretty. I disagree. Sometimes those compliments can become uncivil. We can't have gentlemen getting out of line. I suppose that's true, he laughed. Yes, indeed, that is true. Well, my name is Ray Carter, regular jazz bassist at the Tin Spoon Lounge, speakeasy in North Beach. It's my pleasure to meet you, miss. Okay, another person. He worked at the Tin Spoon. That surprised me. Were you there last night? Until early this morning, he gleamed. I won a bucket of change at the poker table. Just about everyone was saying they never saw someone play cards as well. Sometimes you get lucky, I suppose. He winked. I wondered if he was at all related to this case. I'm glad he was smiling, an upbeat suspect. Ease any harsh questions. He saw me taking notes and asked, "And are you some sort of continental operative?" When I nodded, he let out a whistle and said, "A woman detective? Well, it's almost as swell as a sight as a black man in a white man's barber chair." Ooh, very interesting. So we're going to ask about Fanny not being in the pool hall. Ella Smith tells me little Fanny wasn't in the billiards room at midnight. I put to him. I remember her being there at the beginning and end of the night, but I cannot keep track of everyone at every time. If Alice seems sure, I have no reason to doubt her. Okay. Nobody through the pool hole. According to what the doorman had told Grant, nobody had come in or gone out. Green died about midnight, I put to him. I was inside all night with the band and Tiny Paul playing poker. We heard no shots in the racket. Okay, well, that seems to be a contradiction, because it wasn't that far away. How does that relate to midnight last night? He was right, it wasn't. As far as I can remember, we were all still inside. What do you mean? What do you mean that's not? He said they couldn't hear any things. Like, well, okay. Well, he died at midnight. Green kicked the can near midnight, I said. Right again. You told me that already. We were all in the billiards room at the time. Like, but... I don't know what I'm contradicting. Most people have guns. I'm sorry, miss. I know nothing about that. If Ella Smith knows that, surely. Let's ask about Mrs. Green in general. Showed him something in my book. He's already commented about her being the singer, so I don't know why that's not. Green was found close to the park. Near midnight, right? Yes, you told me that already. We were all in the billiards room at the time. Okay. I don't have any way of saying... Let's ask about why Ella was crying. I don't know enough. I know nothing about that. Send people. I showed him something like, you know nothing, do you? Okay, I'll leave you alone. Yes. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything new and exciting. So we've been pretty much everywhere. Let's head to the Southern Coffee. And I think we will leave this. And, well, actually, let's talk to the taxi cab driver and see what happens. I'd Bandit, you're my last ride for the day. After that, picking my girl and heading over to the Tightwad Hill for the game. Asked about Tightwad Hill. You don't know much about college ball, huh? That new stadium they built for Barkley last year seats over 70,000. Marvel and modern construction, and the team ain't bad either. That's Memorial Stadium, I said. It cost over $1 million to build. How's it related to Tony Hill? Well, the geniuses built the stadium next to a large mound. Now, why would I pay good money to get into the place when I can watch the whole game just fine from the hill? Some others think that way too. So many of us, they dubbed it Tightwad Hill. Yeah, I thought it'd be like that. The girls don't mind being outside. You kidding me? Flappers love it there. We can picnic and drink some gin without being cramped onto wooden benches. Suits both of us just fine. But I hope the home team takes it, I said. Don't matter. It'll be a ride anyway. So here we are. And ooh, hello. There's a phone there. But I think we'll put in a cut in here and we'll continue our investigation next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks. Well, actually, no, that won't be a phone. I don't know what it is, but we'll find out next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching.